All right. Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of the Legacy Den. I'm your host, Rob, here with my good friend, Mason. How you doing, Mason?
I'm doing good. How's you?
Doing great. It's a fine Monday evening here.
Yeah, sorry to run things a little bit early, but the wife is heading out to Tokyo tomorrow, so we had to reschedule. Rob, what are you drinking tonight?
So I am drinking this Heineken that I got for Valentine's Day. Instead of getting chocolate, my significant other knew I preferred beer. So they had Heineken, Valentine's Heinekens. It was even on the box. So I'm drinking that now.
I see. You don't have a sweet tooth, you have a beer tooth.
Correct.
Well, I've decided to switch things up just a little bit. I am having a beer that I picked up yesterday. I went down to Omihachiman, which is about 30, 35, maybe 40 minutes south of where I live. And my wife suggested that I go check out this small little brewing company that sprung up. It's opened up by an Australian local, and it's Two Rabbits
Two
Brewing
rabbits.
Company. Yes. And basically, I poked my nose in, and I was driving, so I couldn't drink or anything like that. But there was a whole bunch of locals all sitting around, and I said I would like to take a bottle home and enjoy it later on. And all of the locals were like, okay, well, then you absolutely have to try the Jackrabbit Aussie Pale Ale. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. And
Great. It'll
cheers.
help us have a good time. Cheers. All right. So first thing on our menu tonight is let's talk about you've been playing Magic Online. If for people who don't know, Magic Online implemented the London Mulligan. So if you wanted to test it out before it potentially is introduced to the game, now would be a time. So Mason, you've been kind of experimenting with it. So how's it been so far?
Yeah, I only have a couple of combo decks that I have access to on MTGO. I bought in right when everybody panicked and sold all their stuff. And my personal feeling was, well, if cards are going to get cheap, then I want to play Legacy. So I purchased a deck, and I've been expanding my collections here and there. What's been really fun, actually, is I set a whole bunch of alerts on MTG Goldfish to alert me when cards drop in price. And it's actually been really useful because a price will go down. I'll pick up like 2 or 3 copies of it, and then it'll just kind of rebound and go right back up. And it's a really great tool. I've been playing Storm for the last couple of weeks, and the Mulligan rule, the new Mulligan rule, was recently implemented, and everybody online has been testing, a whole bunch of combo decks and various different lock piece decks and things like that.
So the meta is a little strange at the moment, is kind of what you would say.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I did play a couple of control decks. There's still some people who, of course, never want to give up their control decks. They love blue. I love Storm, and I love like Dredge, and I like really degenerate combo decks that can take advantage of certain angles in the meta. But I originally, when I first heard about the Mulligan rule, the new London Mulligan, I was not a big fan. And for anybody at home who's not familiar with it just yet,
let's explain the London Mulligan first. What it even is.
So it's called the London Mulligan because it's going to be tested in a G, or is it a GP?
It was tested at the GP.
It was tested
in London, or the Mythic Champions or whatever.
Okay. And basically, instead of mulliganing like we used to, where we would just go down a card and then at the end you'd scry 1 if you've mulliganed at least once. Now what you're going to do is you're going to look at 7 cards each and every single time. And then once you've decided to keep however many times you've mulliganed, you take that many cards and you put them in the bottom of your library. This helps smooth out your hands a lot more. Originally, I was thinking that, going to 5 cards was going to be just, like not a problem at all because you get to make the best 5 card hand out of a 7 card hand. And I thought it was just going to be too powerful.
And sorry, I'm going to interrupt. And
go
for
ahead.
those who think, again, 5 cards is impossible, think of all those games that you've played Magic and you've had a card in your opening hand and you never actually cast it. You never actually used it. Or you just had an extra land that you didn't even do anything with that was kind of there the whole time. Think of it like if you mulled a 6 and you had everything except that, the result wouldn't have been any different. Right? And sometimes that happens with 5. You only need 1 or 2 cards to be able to just take the game away. So,
well, some decks can really utilize like a 4 card hand or a 5 card hand. What comes to mind specifically is Reanimator. Reanimator can win on a really good 4 card hand. They can still, take it right on turn 1. However, I was playing Storm, and one of the things that a lot of famous Storm players talk about is that you just never mulligan. You never mulligan because your cards are so important that going down a card is a really, really bad idea. I tested around with it though. The other combo deck that I sometimes play is Tin Fins, and that's actually going to be the next thing I'm going to try and play around with because I think that one will actually use the mulligan rule a little bit better.
It's kind of like Reanimator in the beginning, but with Storm in the late game. So it's a good combination.
Yeah. But I honestly did not feel like the London Mulligan was too overbearing. Every single opponent I played against, nobody was doing something that just, blew me out turn 1 right off the bat. And mulliganing still hurts. But basically, instead of like saying, you have a 5 card hand, and instead of that 5-drop that you're never going to use, that 5-drop is now a land, which, you would prefer to have over, that 5-drop. And it works pretty well. I'm actually impressed with it. I do think that it might get implemented. And if it does, things will change a little bit, but it might be for the better. So I don't know. I'm open to it.
Yeah. I think it might actually be okay in Legacy and Modern, as you're saying. I'm still worried about it in Vintage, just because Dredge exists. I really don't like Mishra's Workshop, and with 4 in the deck, it's really easy to mull. Oh, finally, I got Workshop, turn 1, Sphere. My opponent still can't do anything, and it's really easy to run away with the game still. Just mull to Workshop and anything, Because sometimes Workshop has to keep like a 6-card hand that doesn't have like a turn 1 play.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're like, well, I can mull to 5 and like I still get to look at 7 cards and kind of do something, that's a huge difference just in Vintage. But again, I haven't actually played with it in Vintage. And as people said, it's easier to find your hate cards too. So
I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I wanted to we were talking about Serum Powder before,
yes.
and we'll get into the finance aspect of that card a little bit later. But one of the things I was thinking about that card is Dredge really, really heavily depends on that card as of right now because it needs those free mulligans. And one of the things that I remembered WotC talking about is the idea that if they do implement this mulligan rule, they may end up, banning and or restricting other cards that would make those decks too powerful. What would you think of if they implemented the London Mulligan rule, but then they restricted Serum Powder out of the Dredge deck?
Doesn't matter. Bazaar. If they have 4 Bazaars in the deck, they win. Like, they don't even need Serum Powder. Just having 4 Bazaars in the deck and being able to mull all the way to 1 and still gives them like a 90% chance of fighting a Bazaar. If they get turn 1 Bazaar, they still generally win game 1.
Okay.
And that's the issue.
Yeah, I guess even mulliganing to 1 and looking at 7 cards is still incredibly powerful.
But if they restricted Bazaar and restricted Workshop because of this, and then maybe restrict some other stuff that's a little too good, like if they restrict Lavinia or something, restrict Snapcaster, I don't know. I would probably be all right with that. Just because I don't feel like, I feel like that would give the vintage meta maybe a little more interesting game ones. Because a lot of times game one is just like, do I get my thing? Yes. Does my deck have like Dredge? Do they play Bizarre? Oh, they win game one, you know. Workshop, do they workshop into like a sphere or something? Yeah, they win game one. But it's not 100%, but yeah, like there are some decks that beat decks and whatever, but I would be fine with some bannings if it meant that the London Mulligan was going to be implemented.
Okay. So you think that the only way that Vintage is going to keep rolling if they implement the London Mulligan rule is if they restrict Bazaar and Workshop?
That's my own personal bias. But I also don't play those decks. I play blue. So it's a little different because blue isn't just like, oh, it's one card that wins. And when we did have one card that won, they restricted Mentor. But yeah, so anyways, because of this London Mulligan, Serum Powder has been shooting through the roof. So
yeah,
what do you think about that?
I've been worrying about things like ley lines and serum powder and just a whole bunch of other things. And I think part of the reason that serum powder is shooting up is because of the Narset deck, the one that basically gets you to exile a whole bunch of things, and then you pull from eternity, and then what is it? You cast Enter the Infinite or something like that.
Yeah, I heard about a deck that was using serum powders. They exile like Grizzlebrands or whatever with serum powder, and then what they do is they pull from eternity like Grizzlebrand or Emrakul or whatever. They go use Vengeance it, and then attack with it. Draw 7 cards with Grizzlebrand. Do the thing where you remove 2 red cards to get another attack step. Attack. Do the same thing again. I've seen decks like that online. It happens, but I don't know if it's real or not. But I think people are going, because of the London Mulligan, people are finding ways to make Serum Powder work because it's just so much better with these new rules.
Well, I was of the feeling that because of the Mulligan rule, because it was going to be good for Standard, I pretty much, whether or not it was going to be good for Legacy or Modern, remained to be seen. But WotC's main focus being on Standard and Limited, and of course, I think the Mulligan rule would be great for Standard and great for Limited because those non-games going down are definitely what everybody wants to see. But I just sort of assumed that the London Mulligan rule was probably going to happen. And last month, I remember I picked up a play set of Serum Powders, just thinking that perhaps everybody was going to need a set just because, like, everybody,
just in case.
Just in case. And I picked up a set for $250 each. And now I'm really, really glad I did because I had not expected them to jump up as much as they have.
And the thing is, London Mulligan hasn't even been implemented yet. They haven't even said we are 100% implementing it. That's the crazy part. Like, if they decided not to implement it, then Serum Powder is going to fall right back down. If they decide to implement it for sure, and Serum Powder doesn't get banned, it's going to go through the roof. So that's a card to be careful about. You don't want to get in and then end up stuck with cards that you can't really use because of the new rules. So
I'm really on the fence because I really kind of have a powerful urge to just ship them. Like, I don't think that there might be a degenerate Modern deck that might use them and might want them really hard. I don't see them being any valuable in Legacy. So my personal feeling is, like, if I can actually like move them for like $15 or something like that, just like $5 under what their current price is, I kind of feel like maybe I should.
Yeah, right now they're buy listing for $650 each on Card Kingdom, which is still profit, but like you can get a little more. I think you can probably get
it might if they move that buy list up to $10, I'll be
that might be
happy.
worth it. Yeah, because again, one thing that we always say in the finance community is save the 10% for the next guy. So yes, the next guy might get 10% more. Like, oh, if I held on to it for another 3 days, I might have got 10% more. But like, just let the next guy get the 10% and be happy with the profit that you got. Because a lot of times what happens is you're like, well, I'm going to hold on to it a little more. And then it turns out people don't really like it that much and it drops down and you don't make anything. You can get a guaranteed profit, and there's nothing wrong with guaranteed profit, right?
Well, but like once
I mean,
again, if I sell
if
them
you
right now, I'll have guaranteed profit. But
right, but like when you have a price point, like I kind of want to sell it this, then just don't worry. Like um like what if they go up to $12 buy list? Like don't worry too much about those extra little bit. Be happy with what you get, and then just use that, and then you get that money faster, and then you can use that and get something that you want, and then that, if you think it's going to go up, might get more money for you in the future. So timing is also critical with that sort of thing. So that's one thing that people who are kind of trying to get into finance, an MTG, might have like difficulty understanding, because everyone wants to buy at the lowest price and sell it at the biggest spike, but nobody knows exactly when the top spike is going to be. So is it now? Is it going to be next week? Did it pass? It's hard to tell.
I think
Go ahead.
well, just to add on the finance before we change topics, but one of the things that I'm actually thinking about, I have a problem with, is liquidating what I have and getting my money, more fluid to move into something else. Because I always see other things that I'm like, God, this looks like a really, really solid investment. Man, I really wish I had some cash to just burn on it. But the unfortunate problem is that like all of my cash is tied up into stuff that I know will be profitable, like just a little bit down the road. And
that's why people are saying, like, don't buy standard booster boxes, because even if you have a booster box of Dominaria, oh yeah, sure, in 5 years this might be worth $130. Is it worth it spending $100 to take the booster box and then have nothing? Have your $100 sitting in a closet for 5 years before you can make $30? There's something to be said for moving and getting money quicker. So
liquidating stuff.
Yeah. So if you do find, not you in general, but just like our listeners or someone,
the royal you.
Yeah, the royal you. Like if you find yourself with too much stuff that you want and you're kind of sitting on too much that you're not using, don't feel bad about getting rid of your stuff to get stuff that you might want, especially if you're using it to play. If you're saying like, I'm sitting here with all this stuff, I'm just wanting to go up in value so I can get a lot for it, but you can't get the cards you need for your deck, then you're kind of not getting the value. You inherently get value from playing with cards. So if you buy cards to play with, you're getting value with that. Because ultimately, we are finance guys, but we're also players. So we support, like my style of finance is to use the money I have and get the most amount of cards I can get, especially if it's cards I want for decks or something. So
yeah, I need to figure out a time in which to liquidate my stocks, because I'm going to Denver and I need to free up a little bit of money. And I know that the new standard set's coming out, and then there's also Modern Horizons. When is Modern Horizons hitting?
I believe it's June. I will check right now.
I kind of don't feel like the buy lists are gonna come back up until
June
after
14th.
Modern Horizons.
Yeah, I would not spec on anything modern until after Horizons. I don't even know how much of an impact the set will have. They might not actually release stuff that's that powerful for modern at all, to be completely honest, because they don't want to like just completely destroy the metagame as it is. They're gonna have to be very careful. Of the two cards,
I look at it as what Card Kingdom is doing as far as buy listing. They are always lowering their prices when they know a whole bunch of people want to get some store credit because this new set is going to drop, and then they want to be able to use that store credit for the new set. I don't particularly want anything out of the new set. I just want the price point that they buy stuff at to go back up, because I think it's artificially deflated at this time. But I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that of the two cards I saw in Modern Horizons, neither of them probably are going to make that big of an impact. And if those are the two cards they chose to show us, like to get excited about this set, it's kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see them going in some decks maybe, but I think they're going to be very careful about printing something that's just like, this deck now wins because of this card that they printed, or this is just completely different. You know, I'm pretty sure they had to make sure to test with this a lot with current Modern and all the stuff that's going on. So I would not spec into Modern too much, because a deck might get better, a deck might get worse, and maybe nothing will happen, but it's hard to tell. But at the moment, Modern is until June. I would wait until spoiler season.
I think that there's going to be some good spoilers from Modern Horizons. I think that we have yet to be impressed by that set, and I think the whole reason is that WotC is not trying to overburden the fans with what they're spoiling just yet. They've given us a taste of Modern Horizons, but then they've also like completely blown everybody out of the water with what's in War of the Spark. And they don't want to do anything for Modern Horizons yet, because each and every single spoiler with War of the Spark is making everybody just lose their mind. And if you overload the audience too much too quickly, then
they burn out.
You can't. Yeah, they burn out.
I will say there's one thing that I'm super specking on in Modern Horizons. I'm not keeping this a secret. I've probably bought 40 copies of this card since they announced Modern Horizons. But yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I picked up just tons of old copies of Counterspell at like 40, 50 cents each, and I don't know if it's going to be printed. If it's not, then I just have a lot of copies of Counterspell, and that's all right too. But I want to make sure that I will never ever run out of that card.
Well, I have one copy of Counterspell. I have like a whole bunch of them, especially when I see them for like 10 cents. I always just pick them up just because they're sweet.
Anytime, yeah.
Yeah, but I actually have one that's near and dear to my heart. It is the one that was altered by our good friend John Neal. And that one is going to be my keepsake for quite some time.
It might have some inappropriate things on it, written on it, but that's what makes it the better.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So very quickly, I want to go over this next point. Speaking of spikes, things that might spike. Feather, as we talked about last time, EDH deck. She hasn't even been released yet. Lots of parts are popular for it. More cards are spiking, other than just the Sunforger and the Balduvian Rage, like we talked about last time.
Still got my copy of Sunforger. Anybody wants it, let me know. Let me know.
Oh, Sunforger. Oh, so sick. Aurelius Fury went up a few bucks. Mirror Wing Dragon. It's a mythic from Eldritch Moon. Chandra's Ignition. That's from Origins. And I'm not sure if Monastery Mentor started spiking because of Feather or not, but I've been picking those up when they were about $7 or $8 each, because I just think Mentor is extremely busted. So it's up to 20 now. I don't see it going down, because honestly, Mentor is just a creature it should not have existed. Mentor is way too good. And if you want copies, that's a card that I personally say you should get as soon as possible before it becomes one of those $30, $40 cards. It's a mythic from a set that's not open very much. It's got prowess on it, which is, I'm pretty sure prowess is not evergreen.
No, it is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's up to $20.
Yeah, but so it is. But I don't think they're going to be like, we should print Mentor again, because maybe in like a master set type thing, but really it is a blowout, that card. And I don't really I don't feel like it's something that's high on their list of, we want to make this card, we want to bring it back again, because I think it was a mistake. Like, I like Mentor because it's really good and I use it, but Mentor is kind of a mistake. So
he's an incredibly powerful creature. Yeah, I remember when back in the days of Puka Trade, I had what was it? I had 2 on my Puka trade that I completely forgot about, and I went out and I bought a play set, and then somebody also sent me 2 of them on Puka trade, and so I had like more than a play set, and then the price dropped down after they banned it in Vintage, and I was just like, oh well, I guess I just have 2 extra, and even though the price dropped, I never really felt like I was going to lose any money on that, so I've still been sitting on the 6 copies that I've got. And yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I have a binder page of them. Let me check. Oh, yeah. And then binder page of Mentors. I have a Cleansing Nova in there, sorry. My last copy's in Vintage.
Get that standard jank out of there.
So what I want to actually talk about more, though, than the spikes is that if you're interested in this deck, I think a lot of people are speculating on what would be good in the deck and trying to make money on that. I don't think these people are like, oh, I'm going to build the sickest feather deck. Let me get 1 copy of Aurelius Fury. And there's like 30 people thinking like that. I don't think that's the case. I think it's people who are finance guys who find out this might be good with that commander that people are freaking out over. Let's buy out a bunch of these of this card. And then people go, oh, that card does look good. I want to get a copy too before it goes even higher. You know, don't buy into that. I say personally, wait until after the next flavor of the week comes, because right now Feather hasn't even been released. It's so much a flavor of the week. Wait until the next set comes out. Wait until the next legendary comes out. Wait until the next commander stuff gets announced. People are going to go nuts. That's when Feather stuff is going to drop because it's no longer the hot new thing. And if you're interested in the deck and you can wait a bit, you will really save a lot of money, because I think a lot of those parts are going to fall. If in 2 or 3 months Feather parts are skyrocketed and they don't fall, and you're referencing this video, Rob, I could have bought Feather, you know,
Sharpen your pitchforks and get the torches out. But
I don't think that these spikes are going to be real. I don't think the cards are good enough to warrant that price.
I think it's a whole bunch of people who are trying to make money. I think that a whole bunch of people are going out there and buying these cards and just sort of expecting that the price will increase. And I think that that the Magic fan base has expanded to such a point that with these old sets that only have like a couple of printings and were not, printed, as much as like today's current standard sets, just a little bit of demand, a little bit of fervor can get prices just jumping up crazy. And that fear of missing out, starts grabbing the cards off the shelves. And to be quite honest, like there's going to be some people who will want this commander and will want those cards, but more often than not, people are just going to be having the cards to try and trade them or sell them later on down the road.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the most important thing too, which is the feeling of missing out. Everybody gets this. I get this. I see a card that starts to spike. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to use the card Attunement in my life. But when I saw it go from $1 to $8, I'm like, I better go and pick up a bunch of dollar copies just in case. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to use this card, but I don't want to be one of those guys who says, oh, I want this card. Oh, it's $8. I should have bought in when they were $1. The feeling of missing out is huge in Magic Finance. And it really does drive a lot of the buyouts.
I think even recently, like things have just been very, very crazy. People have been just grabbing everything that they can, just because they're just so afraid that they're going to miss out.
I mean, Serum Powder is a feeling of missing out, I think. People they don't want to be the guy without the playset of Serum Powders. Oh, what if the Serum Powder deck is the next broke thing? People are going to buy their playset now. They're like, you know what? I'll eat the cost of $15, whatever. I'll pay $60, get my playset. I don't have to worry in case they shoot up to $30 each or 40, 50, because the sky's the limit, right? So
it's a card that maybe some people will use and maybe other people won't use. And in the end of the day, it's not going to matter that much.
Yeah.